Have you ever wondered how you can interact more effectively with other people without triggering them or being triggered yourself? Or how you can create a safe environment at home or at work where people feel safe to talk their mind? And how you can start building teams that are impactful. In today's interview, I join Oliver Randall, who is a change expert and has been working on complex projects in almost every industry for over 20 years. For years, he's been working with neuroscience experts to understand how the brain works and how brain functionalities can influence behavior, performance, and how we can use this information to create more impactful teams and lead them better. We have this incredible conversation about how brain works and why misunderstandings happen so easily, and how understanding the brain functionality can help us develop better leadership skills and become more effective leaders. If you want to strengthen your leadership approach and become a more effective team leader, watch the rest of this video and don't forget to subscribe.
Let's focus on this idea of what it is around people, performance, alignment, what it all means, and see where your questions go.
I know that you have years of experience in almost every industry: manufacturing, IT, financial services, healthcare, anything. I'm sure there are more. So I'm just gonna ask, having worked at these different environments, is that what led to identifying this gap and trying to propose a solution for it?
Like I say, this space for me is far too emotional, obviously. It's life. I've been very fortunate in so many ways. I grew up in Hong Kong. I was sent back to the UK to go to school. I was very privileged, so I went to fee-paying schools. Up to the age of 18, life looked a certain way. I was going to play professional rugby as far as I was concerned. I'd been signed up by Bath in their Colts team, went off on tour to Argentina, but then got injured and I was told I'd never play rugby again. And I suppose up to a certain point, that was a life that I didn't really have to direct too much. I was just being dragged in a general direction. And then my father went bankrupt in '98, which was the same time I found out I had a leg injury that was going to prevent any real progression in rugby. I suppose with everything you encounter, you always well, not all of us are fortunate enough to have the time to reflect, but I suppose I have. And I think why I've ended up focusing so much on people is because I think through the project management world, which I started really lining up as a career back in it would be about 2010, 2011. Officially, I mean, I'd done lots of projects previously, but never as a project manager or someone who was meant to be overseeing a process of change or projects. And I think the moment I did it was in GlaxoSmithKline, and it was with a pack change team that was looking to standardize the process around international packaging of the GlaxoSmithKline products. And I'll be very careful not to upset anyone with this, but I was exposed to this world of high volume of change. You're overseeing 60 odd projects, each with a turnaround time of about a month. And the implications of missed times, deadlines, and everything were of a volume that it was always noticed. You're talking millions of pounds, probably in adjustments. And I knew from that moment I wanted to be in this project world, and I could see better ways of working and everything. Now, I went down this world and I went and applied that in the NHS. I started doing other private projects, doing all sorts. And I always felt that I can do this so much better. And there were so many things I could be doing. And I decided in 20 It was 2015. My mother sadly passed in 2014. She had cancer, and then in 2015, I just felt I want to do this myself privately, and I think it was at that point where I started looking at employing other people, working with others. I always felt, well, everyone wants to do their best in everything. Everyone, we're all very similar characters. So really, if you just come up with clear pathways and everything, give that to people, and you just sort of support them, they'll just go. And that was about the most ludicrous assumption I could have ever made in retrospect. But from that point, so back in 2015, 2016, it's been a journey of trying to work out how, in a professional sense, can you manufacture human performance? And that sounds, knowing everything that I know now, saying manufacturing human performance, it sounds slightly wooden, but then effectively what we've done, on our journey. I can break it down for anyone into any stage, really understanding another human and starting to work with them, and what components you really need to focus on to facilitate that. Speak that I just wanted to keep on getting to grips with, because I'd come into this project management community and it was widely recognized the biggest challenge we have is people, and that was back in 2016 that I started really immersing myself in places like the Association for Project Management.
What's one thing that we can rely on to keep our teams focused and effective under pressure? Because everyone separately would go through hard stuff, but as a team, there are times that every one of us is feeling the pressure. We have our lives, we have the work that we need to deliver to the best of our ability. So how can we really align in that and to perform better? Maybe
it won't be the first exposure, but let's say the first deliberate focus I had on this was something called the accelerated implementation methodology. It was all about leveraging your relationships and people who actually have some emotion around the space and how you work with them. Before the whole experience, I was working with a guy called Stephen Jones, who is an ex-Falcons rugby player and focused on business psychology, and Thomas Lindsay, who is his father-in-law and another well-established business psychologist. And we explored so much from the period, probably from about 2016 to 2018, 2019. And it was just, a lot of theirs was the business psychology and everything. And a lot of me is just bringing, well, okay, I want to see that in stats. I want to bring the numbers to this. Fast forward to 2019, I think we produced, 5-point focus space, which was, we now talk about Hi-PBs, so honesty, inclusiveness, purpose, balance, and structure. And then in about 2024, I came into contact with a guy called David Bovis, and this was all neuroscience and starting to understand how brains work. So you had this almost logical, well, these are the pillars that seem important to really manage while we're sort of interacting with our brains, and putting your energy into spaces that have an impact, but maybe not enough. And I think there's a lot of that. Some behaviors that are championed above others. You may have heard of empathy, where you understand each brain around you is so powerful. Processing 11 million bits of information every second. That's what your brain's doing right now. I think it's 86 billion neurons and processes going on, sitting in there, being calibrated by everything you're interacting with. Okay, all that's going on. You're only really capable of processing up to 50. So when you think about the scale and size of what you actually understand about yourself and are capable of understanding about yourself, it's so small. Your brain's purpose is efficient survival. And that looks very different from person to person. Your experiences, who you want to be, your originating DNA, all shapes how you see yourself or how others see yourself, or so we're the most fantastic machines in the world. But if you don't understand yourself, it can get quite messy. I was drawing a little model this morning, which effectively has the brain in the middle. And then around this, you have deliberate alignment, or coincidental alignment, or deliberate non-alignment, or coincidental non-alignment. Now, I would say that for me is the beginning of everything, because the moment things align with the way you see the world, it feels good.
But how can we align it? Or if we can, I mean, not always we can, but how can we create that environment for ourselves?
Oh, that's a beautiful question, Mina. I showed this to my daughter the other day. I just put my hand on her arm. I said, okay, how does that feel? And she says, okay. I said, okay. So imagine I'm doing this as a father who loves you and wants the best for you. How does that feel? And she said, okay. And I said, okay, now just start to imagine that I'm an oppressor. I'm someone who's trying to control you all the time. I'm someone who you don't like at all, or you see in a bad light. How does it start to feel? Me have my hand starting, does that feel the same? She was like, well, no. And I said, okay, now who's in charge of how you see me? Because you can either see me as this limiting father who's constantly trying to pressure you and coerce you in directions, or you can see me as someone who's constantly trying to support you. You're in charge of how you see me, and that will affect the actions and the behaviors I do and how that impacts you. It's all down to your perception of everything around you. And you're either seeing things as threats, inconvenient, bad, frustrating, or you're just going, well, actually, it's none of those things. It's opportunity. It's potential people to work with and push forwards with. And really, it all comes down to you.
But how much would you think that the other persons, for example, you're in this situation, this scenario, how much your actions would contribute to that perception? Because for example, in lots of my interactions, I can go on to perceive everything really well, whereas in reality and what I am receiving, the actions that I am seeing are not helping really.
You go back to the mechanics of brains and you really understand what each one of us is, which is a brain, and we're built for efficient survival. So all the actions and behaviors that you see are merely a perspective of what that efficient survival is from that individual you're looking at. And depending on the journey they've been, that can look very different. Someone who's grown up in absolute poverty, looking at a world where everyone's so rich and wealthy, and then the difference of the opportunities there and what that looks like. And I can maybe manipulate a few exams just to start getting on that chain, but no one will even look at me until I've got this certificate. That looks very different to someone who's been privileged their whole life, been put through the best schools and just jumping through the hoops as they go along. And then that person might get caught out for cheating and everyone will look at him and say, how dare you? What type of behavior is that? We all frame efficient survival very differently, but ultimately it's the same activity. And so starting to come to that realization that really we're just a world made up of people who are geared for efficient survival. You can't interact with brains and force them to change their perspectives, but you can engage with them and talk about where you want to move next. Very different behaviors. You can judge each other and say, oh, I'd never work with that person. Okay, I don't think that's going to change any behaviors around you. It'll probably put up a few barriers. Or you can go, well, actually, the only position I am with everyone is, well, okay, where do we need to go next?
I can see that Nick is asking the question of how to improve overall team performance, which I know one of the things that we need to do is to communicate to the best of our abilities. How can all these be related? I mean, in a team setting, and then us as individuals trying to communicate to each other as transparent as we can. but also our perception of our teammates or our colleagues or people that are working with. How can we all link these together?
There seems to me, and this is just an out there statement, there seems to be no point in judging other people. They're the product of supercomputers. They're making their own judgment based on their efficient survival mechanism. And we've all lived very different lives and experiences. We've got different DNA. Me judging someone else seems about the most ridiculous thing I can probably ever engage in. Fair enough, and that's just a general statement. I don't know the lives anyone's lived. So that part of me, I've removed, but as much as you can. You're still always judging. I had a moment with my daughters this morning. One doesn't go into school every so often. The other one always goes into school no matter what. There was a moment where the one who doesn't always go into school decided she wasn't going to go into school this morning. Huge amount of work. She managed to get herself into a position where she decided she was going into school. But then she looked at her sister and she went, "You're wearing my trousers, you know, my leggings." Now, immediate snap judgment would be, come on, back off, give it a break, you've just distracted everything. That would be the emotional response, and entirely logical to most people. Where did I go? Okay, there are two people, two brains operating here. Kid who's always going into school, she wants her trousers back. She's made that noise. You've got to respect the noise that you're hearing, okay? Kid who doesn't always go into school, think about why they may have put on those trousers and why they may have wanted them and why they might be using them. Think about that and maybe support that. I'll come back in 3 or 4 minutes. You guys sort it out, because I'm not going to take sides on this. Okay. And all I'm demonstrating there is that almost commitment to just not allowing yourself to be a judge in any journey, because really, you're starting to interact with brains that are making the best decisions from their perspectives. And the moment you do that, all you trigger is defense mechanisms in the other brains you're working with. So so I give you that almost as a base plate to build from. And I'd say the more everyone studies neuroscience and starts understanding, actually, we're just supercomputers doing the best we can with what we've got. Hopefully it brings everyone to a space of mutual respect, where you're not going to overplay anything. You're just going, okay, so well, what do we need to do? Because we all got different perspectives. So there's your base plate. The next place to go is, what are the relationships we've got going on in anything we do? Okay, and that's we've pulled that out for everyone. You've got Hi-PBs: honesty, inclusiveness, I'll put my teeth back in, purpose, balance, structure. Okay, so you've got those 5 relationships. Honesty, okay, that's the relationship with your own emotions, thoughts, feelings, ideas. You've already heard you've got over 11 million bits of information being processed. Guess what? Anything that doesn't align with your view of the world, what's happening? Chemicals being released, driving your emotions. You'll be reacting to things. One of 2 things happen: disengage or conflict. Okay, and again, different degrees, all going on right now. You'll either be going, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or you'll be going, well, I'm in because it aligns with what I understand, or you'll be going, I don't like any of this, I'll try and get it corrected. And that's when you're not engaging yourself and starting to go, well, actually, I don't have to be like that at all. I can be exactly who I want to be, and I can break from that. And that, I would say, when you talk about AI, is the thing we have above AI. We can break every model we're ever given. AI cannot. We can do the impossible. AI cannot. So when you're thinking about, us as brains and why it's so important, I'd say valuing our emotions above everything, I'd say, is so important. Don't ever suppress them. Explore them. I don't know half the time why things have been triggered. What am I saying in meetings? I usually say something along the lines of, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but this is what I'm feeling. Does anyone see anything in that? That's what you'll hear from me if I'm suddenly going, oh, I've got something going on, I'm not sure why. So that's honesty. Then you've got inclusiveness, and that definitely comes from all your neuroscience understanding. It's the relationship with everyone and everything around you. Recognize the world, recognize everything around us as the product of everything that's gone before. Don't waste your time pulling anything down, hating anything. It's the way it is. Move with it. Start building with everyone and everything you've got around you. You know, work out ways of the conversations. What's our focus? How are we going to do this? Where do we want to go? Don't waste time getting bogged down by the obvious emotions that will be triggered of things not aligning to the way you see the world. You know, your brain's built that way. Of course, the moment it doesn't align with the way you see the world, it's going to feel uncomfortable. This is obvious, but be better than that. And you get to purpose. So in everything we do, there's always a purpose. And I always love this quick experiment where I'd say, okay, just talk to anyone and say, give me your wallet. First reaction, start there. What would you do? And I'll ask you, Mina, because I used to love playing this game. So give me your wallet. What would you say, Mina?
Okay, we are you and me,
Yep,
or
you're just going through this. I want your wallet.
there you go.
Okay. Okay, just think about that. And the most likely usually is why. Okay, yeah, you'll get that, but it doesn't really matter. We'll continue going down this scenario.
Yeah.
So the next thing is, okay, give me your wallet because I need to make a call. Oh no, I need a taxi. Okay, I need a taxi. What are you going to do?
I'm gonna ask, how much do you think you'll need? And
Brilliant. Okay,
yeah.
so you can feel things firing up. This is brilliant. So starting to, you know, and you're doing more than I'm asking. Okay, next thing I'm going to say is, give me your wallet. I need to get a taxi because my kid has fallen and they've cracked their head open and she's bleeding out onto the floor. I need to get to the hospital. What are you going to do?
Go. Why are we making this conversation with me? There you go.
Joining that journey, and you're going to help me in some way, whatever way. Okay, brilliant. And what you've demonstrated there is that almost belief in the outcome. Okay, I'm starting to see it, and you start firing up, and you start thinking of solutions as to how we get there. You even telling me stop talking. We need to move quicker. Okay, brilliant. Last part of this is, okay, give me your wallet. There's absolutely no purpose. What are you going to do?
I'm probably okay. There's no purpose.
Okay, brilliant. Pause there. That's what should happen. Your brain always believes there's a purpose in everything. Did you feel the slight conflict? The moment someone tells you there's no purpose, you'll still argue with yourself and you say, but you're asking me for it, so there's still a purpose. But you have to have a purpose. So purpose is about the most important thing you need to understand whenever you're doing anything. Because if people don't really believe in what we're doing, how are they going to apply themselves? And we're very good as a society celebrating the obvious purpose, survival, defeating the bad, you know. But actually, every little thing in society is so important for everything. And the more we understand the purpose in everything and that everything's as important as everything, if it's not, stop doing it. And then you start understanding, well, if we're not doing that, and you can start adding that up. But it's a much more conscious relationship with everything and why everything's done. But that's purpose. So that's your other relationship always going on whenever you're doing anything. So you've got honesty, you've got your thoughts, feelings, ideas going off, you've got your people and things around you, you've got your purpose in everything, okay? Then the fourth one is balance, okay? Now this is the things that deep-seated, you've already heard, 86 billion neurons, etc., and they've all been configured with your experience, your DNA, and everything you want to be. They're sitting there sort of going, this is important. They're still there. So it's understanding that you do have priorities already preset, and it might be the way I'm dressed. It might be not touching rubbish. It might be, you know, all these things that are actually important to you and already sitting there. You always need to manage these things, because the moment that you don't, and the moment you're starting to do things that don't line up with actually what's important to you, you feel a little bit of conflict, and that can only grow and, you know, suppress, etc. So you have that going on as well. And then the last area you have is structure. The thing that probably in society we've worked on 99.9%, the structure of everything. We've worked out how we should work together. We've come up with processes. This is how we're going to work together. But we discount one thing: people and brains. Things are evolving far quicker than anyone even wants to admit. What do we need to work on? What's the structure of alignment? It's focusing on the same 5 systems, but you focus them on yourself. So you make sure you're aligned between your DNA, your experiences, and who you want to be. Okay, and that sounds weird, doesn't it? Thinking, oh, you've got to be aligned yourself. But quick question. Have you ever thought about how you feel about the work you do? You know, is there a well, my DNA says I should be outside and doing, active things. My almost experience suggests I probably should be here. And who I want to be, well, I want to go off and save the world. And there's a slight disconnect. You haven't done the work to go, actually, this is the best place I want to be. And I want to be on this call right now. And there's always, because we don't understand that actually the whole reflection piece is shaping our brains and bringing an alignment between all things we do. The more time we spend reflecting about who we really want to be and what everything means and how it all joins up, the more equipped you are to be strong in yourself, mentally strong, and less likely to really, feel that conflict, internal conflict in what you're doing. So there has to be alignment in you. So when you've worked on the alignment in yourself, then you can start to think about aligning to your environment, i.e. the people you're working with. Quick question, do you think it's easier to get people on your journey or get on other people's journey?
Second.
Obvious, right? But a lot of the time we walk into rooms and we say, oh, this is the journey we're all going on, and you just don't know that. Again, that is something that, unless you really understand brains, you don't do that. Why? Because immediately you're building a sort of, oh, they're going at this speed, you're going at this speed, you've just come into contact with them, and they just going, oh, I can't keep up with that. So you just make sure you're always jumping on other people's journeys first, then raising the temperature together, and then pushing forwards. And as I say, if you focus on those same 5 systems and just have consideration. So, for example, we'll quickly go through it. Okay, guys, we're all going to get together. Now, one of the most important things as we talk is hearing anyone's thoughts, feelings, ideas as we go through this, because you're all supercomputers and I want to hear, I want to tap into all of you. Otherwise, what's the point of being here? So you cover that off. Then you're going into inclusiveness and going, well, guys, absolutely everything around us, we need to see it as something we can work with. We need to see everything as an opportunity to build with. I don't want anyone focusing on for 1 second, and I need everyone here. So let's all make sure we're as involved in this, because each one of you is so valuable. So you're covering that off. Then you're going into, okay, purpose, and you're making sure, okay, we're all aligned, we're all on this journey. Is this the right journey? Does everyone agree? Then you're going into balance and going, if anyone feels that there's anything else that they need to be doing or other priorities, or they think, make sure you're talking about it, because if we don't know about it, we can't work with it. And then, of course, structure. Make sure that everyone agrees with the way forwards and everyone's contributing their thoughts and feelings to this. And there you go. You've already covered off the various bases that everyone will have a relationship with anyway. It's just either going to be a very poor relationship, i.e. I have a thought, feeling, idea, and I suppress it. I don't want people thinking of me a certain way. Or, I'm seeing people as against me. All they're doing is constantly suppressing me, and they don't like my ideas or thoughts. All of these things just start as small things, but then they just grow. Because your brain, again, gets that confirmation bias where it's starting to go, that's the way I see the world. This person's against me. So anything they're doing, that might be slightly in that zone, well, it's multiplied. You start seeing someone as a bad person, well, guess what? They're only going to get worse. Doing the best they can with what they've got. Now, how do we build forwards? I'd say any leader, anyone who's supporting anyone, if you don't understand and respect brains, really, can you be doing that job well? And I'd say, from what I understand now, absolutely not. You need to almost rewire your neural pathways to go, because the obvious place to go, a bit like me and my daughters this morning, the obvious place is, She's always going to school. Now you're starting to disrupt her. Are you crazy? That's the obvious place to go. But I've literally started rewiring everything in here to go, no, we've got to break away from that. I've got to see each brain as the most valuable thing in the world. And we've always got to explore why they're in that position. And I equally understand if someone's in a bad position, they're less likely to be able to explore that. So I've got to wait till they get into a safe space, and then we can start exploring stuff. And until I've got that clarity, guess what? My brain will push me into positions where I'm going to be probably doing a lot of damage to the people around me. And that I would say is something I see teachers doing a lot with kids. I see managers doing a lot with their team members. I see a lot of sports coaches doing with their team members. It's rife, but then what does good look like and how do we get it in? And that's where all the framework we've developed, I hope, starts making a real difference, because you'll recognize if you're not supported on that journey of prioritizing yourself, something's not right there. You're in the wrong environment. You should be equally able to align yourself to what the organization is trying to achieve and manage yourself appropriately. The right structure that's suitable, etc., and balance everything. But I'd say the most important thing for any one of us is balance. You know, it's just being in a space where you can take, because we spoke a bit about pain earlier, and to me, I think pain is, a sad consequence of being alive. And I would even say pain is something that is inevitable, because not everything is going to align with the way you see the world. You're going to feel pain.
Exactly.
But it's how you manage that. And I'd say understanding that the most important thing we all do is get back to a middle space as quickly as possible, so we can start, logically approaching everything. Because the moment you're making decisions and starting to act purely based on just the emotional triggers, I'm afraid that's where all problems start.
To be more conscious about, how our brain works. What I really would love to know right now is that how I can practice that.
I'd say starting with neuroscience and understanding brains, I would obviously say that's really important. If you're just someone who is literally exposed to a bit of this and saying, well, what can I do tomorrow differently? I would say, well, we created a flyer for after our sessions, and there were always 5 questions to reflect on. So honesty, are you offloading your thoughts and feelings, ideas, the moment they occur? Where you want to get to is you want to be someone who can engage with people and take what's going on in here and translate that into interaction as quickly as you can. Now, people will always lean towards, well, the dangers of that. And I'd say, yeah, good. Be aware of everything. But then remember, if you're doing that, you move a lot quicker. Okay? You move a lot quicker with everyone around you. People understand you better. You start being able to develop things better. You start being someone who can contribute to the journey much quicker than anyone else, because you're taking that supercomputer and you're turning it into actual action.
Do you mean, like, for example, in our interactions, the moment that we feel something and think something, process it and put it out there?
And I'm glad you used that word, process. Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about offload, it's a very deliberate management act, okay? It's starting to think, what's the relevance? Why is it important? Why am I going to be talking about it? I think everything is a constant reflection within yourself. And all you're getting here by the words I'm going to say is you've got a reflection mechanism. We talk about metacognition. Metacognition is the act of influencing your brain and helping the rewiring and alignment within your brain. It's the thing that can help you be who you want to be, instead of just being a product of, I suppose, your experiences and your DNA. It helps you be more. So that metacognition is the art of just really reflecting on yourself and starting to go, well, do I want to be that way? Did I want to be better? Could I be better? What's that look like? And these 5 spaces will give you reflective points just to go, well, actually, what does good look like? If you are getting chemicals going off, are you embracing that? Because this is a supercomputer. You need to be recognizing that and not suppressing stuff. Because the moment you suppress stuff, well, it's going to create other challenges going on in there, and it will slow you down.
Earlier, you mentioned that we must try to perceive everything in the best way that we can. Having that in one side, and then trying to articulate all the thoughts that we, or the kind of the internal reactions that we have to some other people. Absolutely. How could we balance these two?
And I would guess there'll be some people in the world who will just think it will be important just to go with it, okay? And there'll be others who will be thinking about the impact and implication. Now, I'd say both are exactly right for where you are and who you are. We always have to think about the impact of everything we do. We just don't always do that, right? But when you're thinking about the world we live in, there are 1,000,001 different paradoxes and conflicting bits of information that really, you've got that going on in your brain. It's not all as aligned and nicely put as anything is. But what you've got here is you're starting to go, yeah, okay, manage the threat spaces. Now, one of the threat spaces is you've got so many processes going on in here, and it's producing chemicals. Now, those chemicals will influence your actions. Now, if you want to be someone who's not just allowing that to build up and get messy, etc., you start going, well, let's make a rule for this space. Let's go, well, the moment anything's going off, let's explore it. Let's understand it. Let's start managing it. Okay, that's all you're doing with that space, put in a box. You have to line all these up, though. It's not just a case of, okay, now I'm doing that, and I'm just saying everyone what I think of them when I think it. You're marrying everything up. You're going, well, purpose has to be in here. What are we trying to achieve? Where are we going? Structure, how is it meant to be delivered? There are ways of offloading. Do we do it in front of everyone, or do we do it to the side? Everything has to be considered. But the most important thing in all of this is starting to recognize raw brains, lots of processes going on. The first part is just going, well, if I want to be a certain way and create best outcomes, is it just being a product of all my emotions that go on, i.e. the chemicals going on, and just seeing where that lands, you know, on a day basis? Or is this something I want a more deliberate approach in? And that's where we're getting to. It's starting to go, well, okay, so I'm always going to have a relationship with my brain. There's always going to be things that are occurring to me. Now, do I just suppress those? I just go, well, actually, I'm doing something important. I don't explore anything. Or do I go, well, actually, this could be something very important. Let's explore it quickly and then get back in the game. And it's just developing a as healthy a relationship as you can with everything that goes on in there. Like I say, there'll be some people where those emotions are so strong, they sometimes blurt out things that come into conflict with, you know, the other spaces. But I'd say, well, if that's going on, that's fine, but that's conversation again. It's not feeling embarrassed, humiliated, or anything. It's just understanding what type of person you are. You know, some emotions feel so much stronger in others than others. And I'd say, you know, I've dealt with this a lot, just even at home, where you can see quite clearly when something's uncomfortable for one, it's a discomfort that I can't even begin to understand. Because I'm lucky. I haven't been given this extremity of emotions or sensitivity to things that happen around me when it doesn't coincide with the way I see the world. So that reaction is so vast. But then would I be saying, put a lid on it? No, I want to hear about it. You know, you shout at me, you tell me what's painful, and we'll explore it together. And that's where it starts becoming so important to have coaches, leaders, managers who really just embrace all the things they're hearing as a product of a brain that is so powerful. The takeaway I would say, respect all brains. You know, we're all fantastic. We've all got so much potential built up inside us. Let's never miss that. The second thing I would say is checklist. I've said there are 5 areas: Hi-PBs, honesty, inclusiveness, purpose, balance, structure. Very quickly, honesty. Are you offloading the moment things occur? It's what you're aiming for. Don't worry about it. It will feel wrong to others who haven't been prepared for this. If you want to think about the impact and what that looks like, you're building into structure, you're building into inclusiveness, and they're not bad things to consider. But don't suppress stuff. That's the rule. Okay, when you're going down that line, it's not good for you. Inclusiveness. See everyone and everything positively to build forwards with. Okay, deliberate words to build forwards with. You're doing something with them. It's not just seeing people positively for the sake of it. It's seeing everyone positively to build forwards with. It's seeing everything positively to build forwards with. Okay, you'll always come into conflict with this. People do things that will conflict, and you'll think, are they on the same journey? Not too sure. Don't waste your time. Just reset. Are you interested in where we're going? This is what I'm thinking. Okay, and then purpose. Make sure that you always believe fully, 100% in what you're doing. No doubt. Okay, that's where you're building towards. Because the moment that you accept that you don't fully believe in something, that's where you get all the poor performance. You get the questions, why are you not being proactive? And the frustration in yourself, well, it just didn't occur to me. You just told me to do this. That's where it all exists. It's about how much you believe in what you're doing. Your brain lights up when you're doing something you believe in. You only have to look at any tragedy in the world where you see the greatest stories occur here. Why? Well, it's because everyone's so aligned to surviving all of a sudden. It's not a surprise. But how can you recreate that in your day-to-day? Well, start doing the mental alignment to just going, well, actually, this is critical to my survival. Being on this call, listening, talking, exploring, all of these things are critical to my best version of survival. Because if they're not, well, I'm going to stop doing it. And that's what you've got to do. If you don't fully believe in it, don't do it. Okay, that's purpose. Balance. Prioritize yourself 1,000,000%. Okay, I'm going above and beyond, above everything. Don't even think about it. You've heard it. Put your oxygen mask on first before you even start thinking about anyone else. Seriously, your brain will play games with you. You'll see people out there with super yachts, having drinks, and you'll be thinking, that's the life I want to lead. I hate my life. Don't go down this journey without exploring it. If you think you need to be there, well, go do whatever you're thinking you want to be doing. But don't let it sit in there as this plague of, oh, I'd rather be down the pub. You be where you want to be all the time. Don't waste your time. Explore every bit of thing that you think is important to you. Pull it apart. But you'll always come back to, hopefully, a reasonable conclusion that you're probably exactly where you want to be right now. And you need to get rid of these, these distractions. If you really want to be in the pub, maybe it's a question of, actually, I'd like a bit of social interaction with people I really care about. Well, then work on that, frame it, understand what that looks like, build into it, make sure it's a regular occurrence, but work with people around you. Don't just leave it as a oh, it's sitting there, that's balance. And then structure. My favorite in a way, because it's the one we're so keen to set down and say that's it forever. And the one gap I'd say here in all the structures and all the environments I go into, and the thing you've got to do immediately is remember that all structure is the product of other brains trying to help things go right. Respect it. Don't waste time hating it or feeling it's oppressive. It's just trying to help things go right. Build into it, So it's embrace all structure. Use the very emotional word, embrace. Just go with it. Love it. Help it evolve. Okay, and that's critical. It's working out who's involved in this structure. How can I engage with them? Help them explore. Help me understand why it is the way it is. Is there a way we can update it together? Okay, so those are your 5 rules to live by. And it will help streamline your activity and move a lot better.
I knew that there's so much to discuss here and to uncover and to kind of explore, but I had no idea how much I would, find it relatable to me at least.
Mina, huge warning. Okay, huge. We're all human. Don't ever lose sight of that. We're all going to get it wrong. You're all going to be dragged by emotions at some point. We're all going to get it wrong. But the most important thing is just pulling back, reflecting, framing things in a way that you can move much more easily, because we all know how it feels when you're interacting in environments where it feels like people are against you. We all know how it feels if you feel like you're not getting the structure right. We all know how it feels when you feel like you can't prioritize yourself and you just have to sit at your desk. We all know how this feels, and it just feels like, oh, this is uncomfortable. All it takes is you reframing it, and you just going, well, actually, it's probably the best place it could be. And all I need to do is start talking about these things and why they're important to me with the people who only want me to be in a great space. Because if I'm in a great space, I'll do great work. It's obvious. They want me in a great space. If I'm not in a great space, I'll turn up to work, I'll pretend I'm really working, and then I'll go home and I'll collect my paycheck. And then when I feel slightly ill, I'll be off. The greatest lessons I've had, as I suggested earlier, one of my daughters has, greater degrees of emotions than probably the average member of our society. Extreme emotions. And I don't think there's any more challenging environment than a home with people with different focuses, but being stuck together, and what that looks like. So one realization I gained through dealing with my daughter was that there is only one position for anyone to be in, wanting to support another or wanting to shape, performance. That's supportive. Okay, and what that means, being supportive to a brain, is creating a safe space for a brain, and that's just making them see you're not threatening. You're there just to give them space, time to really fire up and work in the best way. Now, obviously, my daughter's worked with me a lot, but if we're in a workplace, I think a lot of the time I spend my time just talking to the people and just saying, how are you? Are you okay? And then from there, where does it build to? It starts going, well, do you think we're doing things the right way? It usually goes to structure quite early. But I think just by capturing the initial how are you and where you go with that, you're taking an interest in really how much they're prioritizing themselves, etc., how much they're going to just talk to you openly about things. So you're covering off honesty. Then you're starting to think, well, or they should start to think, well, you're on my journey, so the purpose is supporting you at this stage. And then it's starting to think, well, okay, what structure do we need to progress in? And then you're covering off structure. But it's really making sure that you're aligned to them first. Because a bit like I questioned earlier, is it likely that you can get people to align you more easily, or is it more likely you aligning to them? And the honest answer is, well, you align 100% to the person you're engaging with. Otherwise, they won't trust you. They'll think you've got a hidden agenda, because that's the way our brains see things. It's anything that's not aligned with the way I see the world, threat, uncomfortable. You're coming in here, you're just looking to change everything. Even this conversation, you're just going to change the way I work. But the only way you can break that is by truly aligning to them and showing them the only thing you want is the best for them, and truly seeing that.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Onyeka and Naresh for joining us, and thank you so much, Oliver. But for this session, I can't begin to tell how much I personally have learned, and I'm just planning in my head that, oh, I want to do this and that and that and that.
If you want to be good at life, you become a surfer. You watch everything around you and you start moving with it all. You don't waste your time trying to fight anything. You just go, oh, okay. Everyone and everything around us is a product of billions of years of evolution. Let's not pull that apart. Let's just go, okay, where do we need to move next? How can I work that out? So you just start vibing with everything, and it's beautiful. Don't get too down about anything. In any society, there are rules that are chucked at us. Go with it. They're there for a reason. If you don't like it, maybe move to another country, but just go with it and embrace them.
Thanks, Oliver. It was very insightful and helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you very much.
Great fun. Yes, thank you, Onyeka, and thank you, Arash. All right.
Have a good night.
All right, take care.
Yeah. Bye.